Once more, you are welcome back to my channel. Let us look at reaction trailing this successful airstrike against terrorists in Nigeria by United States of America. As you have it, there is this quiet in Sokoto Caliphate. The Sultan of Sokoto have not spoken, have not uttered any word. But we have seen some prominent Nigerians from the north making one or two comments. We have seen a former governor of Sokoto State, Tambuwa, asking the people to remain calm, telling them that America is only targeting terrorists, not innocent citizens. We have seen a similar development from Kwangwaso, telling the citizens, law-abiding citizens, not to worry that terrorists are the target. I think ultimately, those who reside in the environment in the north have come out to clarify that there was no civilian casualty. So it implies that terrorists were actually the target and that America got the actual target. I must say this is a welcome development. But let us look at this strange development coming from Shegumi. This time around, Shegumi is telling TINUBU, stop every cooperation with America and American military. I'll bring you up to speed with the way Daily Post put it. He said, Trump airstrikes, hot military cooperation with US immediately. Shegumi tells TINUBU government. This is like a warning. He said, hot military cooperation with US immediately. I must say this is strange because in all the reaction we are seeing, this is the only one that is speaking in this manner. But let me go further into what is coming from Shegumi, because he says, going further, he said, Islamic cleric Sheikh Ahmed Gumi has called on the federal government to immediately halt all military cooperation with the United States following reported US airstrikes. He goes further to say that Gumi warned that American involvement could worsen Nigeria's security challenges and undermine national sovereignty. Gumi made the call in a statement posted on his Facebook page on Friday. He said, while Islam permits fight against terrorism, such action should only be carried out by what he described as clean hands, arguing that the United States lacks the moral authority to lead such efforts because of its global military record. I want to say that I strongly disagree with Shegumi, because as far as I'm concerned, the issue of sovereignty is talking about that this will undermine Nigerian sovereignty. I think that is not true. It is not true because I've listened to the Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs, who said he was on phone with American Secretary of State for about 15 minutes at the first instance and about another 5 minutes at the second instance before the operation. And that before the operation, that it was the president of Nigeria, Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who gave the permission for the operation to go ahead. So on that note, I want to say that Shegumi is not correct when he's talking about undermining Nigerian sovereignty. Because even Nigerian government have come out to clarify that they worked in collaboration with American governments. Apart from that, we have seen an American government through the military in charge of African Command, coming out to acknowledge that Nigerian government played a pivotal role in the operation. So I want to say that this narrative that is coming from Shegumi is, I totally disagree with it. I totally disagree with it because all the government officials from Nigeria who should know better, who should represent the government, have come out to clarify that they partner with the Nigerian government. And let me quickly say that even at the level of when we saw some American military surveillance jets hovering over Nigeria, when the report came to the media space, Nigerian government equally came out to clarify that yes, it is with the permission of Nigerian government that those military planes were conducting those intelligence gathering. So it beats all imagination where a Shegumi will be getting his own ideology and be fronting it. Because as far as I'm concerned, I welcome what Nigerian government is doing, talking about the cooperation with the American government, and I welcome the successful operation that I've seen bandits being decimated. And we hope and believe that Nigerian government will continue in this trajectory of cooperating with America to take out the bandits. Because I want to say that that narrative that was being pushed in the past, that if America is coming, that their interest is to collect Nigerian solid mineral. I want to say that that narrative was actually being propagated by those who do not want Nigeria to come out of this quagmire, by those who may be discreetly supporting and sponsoring terrorism. Because it beats all imagination why even the Shegumi should be advising Nigerian government to look towards cooperating with countries like China, Pakistan, and so on and so forth. I think Turkey as well. Because the question is, Chinese government have been on ground, if not directly Chinese government, Chinese nationals have been on ground in Nigeria for a very long time, exploring solid mineral. And there have been so much allegation as to their activities as it has to do with this banditry. We cannot forget in a hurry how a senator raised the issue at the Hello Chamber, that these foreign nationals, particularly the Chinese, use these bandits to secure territories for themselves for the purpose of illegal mining. How they use chopper to cut away our solid mineral. So why should somebody be advocating that China should be allowed, or rather Nigerian government should partner with China to fight this insurgency or terrorism, as the case may be? I want to say that as Nigerians, we are comfortable with Nigerian partnership with American governments. I want to tell the President, Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, that Nigerians are in his support, that he should go ahead with this cooperation. I say because this terrorism that is in the north, that was a major problem for the north, is already becoming a national issue. It's no longer restricted to the north. We have to have it. It is already being experienced in different parts of the country. If somebody should tell us, perhaps in the time past, in 2010, 2009, that a time will come where Kwara State, or rather when Kwara State will become epicenter of terrorism, just as we have in Borno, in Yobe, nobody could have believed that. But currently, it is happening in our very eyes. A situation where Kwara State has suddenly become an epicenter of banditry. I want to say that I totally and strongly disagree with the position of Shegumi. Because the same way Shegumi is a Nigerian, I'm equally a Nigerian, and I want this problem to be solved. I continue maintaining that bandits should not live any longer than what they have lived. Because as far as I'm concerned, these are people who have no respect for the sanctity of life. These are people who maim, kill, rape at will. Going through their modus operandi, you can understand that what the government needs at this point is to acquire monopoly of coercive power, smoke them out of their hiding places, set them running and bring them to justice. Even if you are talking of anything negotiation, let it be that the bandits are the one begging that they want peace. And when they beg, let it be that they are coming from a point of weakness. And when they come from a point of weakness, let the government ensure that they surrender. And after surrendering, let them be prosecuted to act as deterrent to others. I want to say that after this successful airstrike, going forward, bandits who want to embrace peace will want to surrender their arms. And after surrendering their arms, they must be prosecuted to act as deterrent to others. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's a legitimate thing to arrest and prosecute bandits to act as deterrent to others. It's a legitimate thing to disalive them, or rather to neutralize them in the battlefield. Whichever one comes first. Because we have seen serious level of insecurity in Nigeria occasioned by Fulani terrorists. Because it beats all imagination. Where someone like Shegumi have said in the past that Nigerian government should not use kinetic approach against bandits. That Nigerian government should go and start negotiating with bandits. The Nigerian government, of course, at some point, it was reported that he said that there is a tribal war in Nigeria between the Fulanis, or rather the headers and other ethnic nationalities. Because personally, I don't know, I've not heard, I do not know that there's anything tribal war in Nigeria. So he was even of the view the federal government should stand aloof and allow the Fulani to face other ethnic groups. That's why I totally support Mr. President when he said that if you bear arms illegally, you are a terrorist. I think I strongly support that his position. And I want to believe that the security agencies will take it seriously to the point of ensuring that anyone that bears arms illegally is treated as a terrorist. I equally totally endorse and support Mr. President's position about state police. Well, as far as I'm concerned, is a panacea to solving this problem. Because state police will encompass all the tiers of government, and at the end of the day, it will ultimately give the governors the leverage to pilot the affairs of fight against insecurity in their respective states. Because the governors cannot just be going about with the name of the governors and the chief security officer of their respective states. Rather, they should be given some level of security power to parade. Because in the time past, we have seen so many instances where the governors will be lamenting about their inability to command and control the security architecture in their respective states. A case in hand is one that happened recently from Zamfara State, where the governor was emphatic that as a governor, that you have been able to acquire some level of security, some level of intelligence that enables him, or rather some level of technology that enables him to know the movement and location of bandits. He was lamenting about his inability to command the security architecture into operation for him to achieve results. But now that we have seen this state police agenda approach, how does that when finally it comes on board, the state governors will now have the opportunity to command the security architecture in their respective states. Because certainly the locals will be recruited, and the governor, in collaboration with the locals, particularly the traditional rulers, who of course will understand, have moral authority over the people, will be the one to determine who and who will be a personnel, or rather the personnel of the state police. And once that happens, we can now ensure that the peace we will get, the result we are getting with the collaboration with America, can now be sustained. And the idea and the position of Mr. President as well, talking about ending open grazing, as far as I'm concerned, is a welcome development. It's a welcome development because the issue of open grazing has been outdated. You cannot be talking of open grazing in this 21st century. That is why anyone rearing cow should go and ranch his or her cow. That's the word best practice. And I want to say that for those who argue that federal government should bankroll ranching, I want to say that it's a misnomer. It's a misnomer because business of cattle rearing is individual business, not government business. So why should government use the commonwealth of everybody to bankroll ranching? The best they could do is to approach banks for credit facilities. I understand that there's a whole lot of value chain in cattle business. So those banks can leverage on the value chain in the cattle business to recoup their money over time. But as far as I'm concerned, the North going forward must ensure that they start training their children in school. Because I want to believe that that is another area we need to focus our attention. Because there's a very big correlation between out-of-school children and terrorism. Because it beats all imagination. Where you see in the states, in the North, you see as much as 60-something percent, as much as 67%, in some cases 50-something, 40-something, 30-something, 20-something percent out-of-school children. And we are talking of a bracket between 6 and 16 years. And in some instances, in some states, it translates up to 1 million people. So the question is, by the time you give birth to children, you allow them grow in the wild without proper parental care. Of course, they will be vulnerable to be radicalized and be recruited into terrorism. I think it's part of the consequence we now face as a people, as a country. And I not be concerned when recently some other stakeholders started blaming federal government for out-of-school children in the north. I feel it is unfair from those stakeholders, because though I acknowledge that under universal basic education, it is the responsibility of the 3 tiers of government to train the Nigerian child. However, what behaves of federal government to do is the policy direction and the funding. And they have been doing for the 36 states without exception. So the question is, why is it that we are not seeing as much as out-of-school children in the north? Why is it that we are not seeing out-of-school children in the south as we see in the north? So we're going to show that there is something fundamentally wrong with the north. And if I should extrapolate, I will come to the conclusion that the stakeholders, the elites, deliberately do not want the northern child, particularly the downtrodden, to get education. For a simple reason that they want them to be willing tools for manipulation in the north. Because ordinarily, one will be wondering, why will a Buhari who is from the north jettison the idea of giving the Almanjiri education in the north? Because a Jonathan was the president, of course, he introduced Almanjiri schools. He was building school in every nook and cranny of the north so that he could take the Almanjiris out of the streets by a way of addressing insecurity, terrorism from ideological point of view. But when the Buhari took over government in 2015, he jettisoned the idea. So the question is, why? So we're going to show that the North, particularly the elites, the stakeholders, the political class, may not be willing to give the downtrodden in the North proper education. And I want to say that when you educate the populace, one, you will be building their human capital. The region will be building its own human capital, which will ultimately enable the region to develop their economic base and contribute meaningfully to Nigerian larger economy. So it will be a win-win situation for the North and the country. Because the question is, if it is about religion, if it is about Islam, why is it that we have Islam in the North, we have Islam in the southwestern part of the country? Because in the southwestern part of the country, we have a good number of Muslims in the southwestern part of the country. But we have never seen any Yoruba man who is a terrorist. And we always see people from the north who are involved in terrorism. So why? It means there's something fundamentally wrong with the north that they need to address. And I think and feel it has to come from their leaders. They can no longer shy away from it, because this issue of terrorism, as we have it, it is giving everybody concern. Like I always say, you may feel you are comfortable because it's not happening in your locality. But I want to say that it's a matter of time. If it's not addressed, it will go round. That is why the earlier it's addressed, the better for everyone. That is why everybody, all hands will be on deck to ensure that it's addressed. We cannot forget in the hurry, when Ishai Mekende raised Allah the other time, that the bandits who were being destroyed from the north were already hibernating in southwestern forests. A situation that made Amateku to then raise about 2,000 men to destroy them from the forests. Because this is part of the reason, not just part of it, this is exactly the reason that even made a Sunday Igboho to rise to prominence under a Muhammadu Buhari. Because we had the then Sadiq of Iganga, who was behaving recklessly, who the security agencies could not reckon. It was that vacuum that was created that saw Sunday Igboho rising to say, no, enough is enough. So the question I continue to ask him, why is the Fulani at the center of all the issue of insecurity, terrorism in Nigeria? This is not about profiling. It's very clear. Because even the outside themselves have started saying it. That when it comes to terrorism, that the outside man is not involved. That those that are doing it are the Fulanis. And that's the truth. We must call a spade a spade. More so as their brothers, their brothers from other part of African country like Burkina Faso, Libya, Mali, and all of those places come here, converge here, stay here, mingle with their people, still go about the act of terrorism. And somebody somewhere will be telling you, negotiate with them. Do not use kinetic approach against them. Do not use kinetic approach to fight them. I must say that I am in total support of this current effort from Nigerian government in collaborating with American government in decimating the terrorists, in worker development. It doesn't matter the opinion of anyone that is not comfortable with it. I want to say that the Mr. President should know that every patriotic Nigerian, every peace-loving Nigerian is in support of this move. Because if you look at what happened recently in Sokoto as we speak, whether you're a Muslim, you're a Christian, you're a pagan, and you have been facing these activities of these facing hardship, difficulties, as a result of activities of these Fulani bandits or terrorists, I want to say that all of them will be happy that they have been taken out. So it's not a question of where you belong in terms of religion. It's a question of a people that do not have value for the sanctity of life must not be allowed to continue carrying their evil agenda. They must be stopped. Because whether we like it or not, Nigeria is a sovereign state that ought to have monopoly of currency power to police each of its territorial integrity. I want to say that it's abnormal when Nigeria as a sovereign state starts sharing monopoly of currency power with non-state actors. And it is unacceptable. But I must say very big thank you for your time. This is Settler Media and I'm Mr. Matu.